Hi, so today I want to talk to you about your relationship with the unknown. And if you think about it, our desire to know the answers to everything causes us a great deal of suffering. So, if you have a good relationship with the unknown, with being just okay with not knowing the answers to everything, then that eliminates so much suffering. But we spend so much time in these thought loops just trying to figure everything out so that we can be okay. It's like we want to know the answer so that we can be okay. We want to know that we're going to be okay in the future so that we can be okay in the present moment instead of just allowing things to unfold. Like we cause ourselves all this pain and suffering by needing to know right now. I can see how that's playing out in the world right now as far as people not knowing, what's going to happen with the coronavirus. Like things are starting to open back up, but we going to get through all the stages of opening everything? Are more people going to get sick? Um, are the people who are still waiting for unemployment going to get it? Like, there's so many unknowns. And we're at this place right now where, like, the whole world is at the same level of not knowing. Like, there's always a million things that we don't know. It's just really in the forefront right now. And that's how it always is for the parent of a child who is suffering from addiction. Like, we just have so many unknowns, and we have to get really comfortable with the unknown. Like, our happiness cannot depend on knowing when they're going to get sober. It can't depend on knowing when you're going to hear from them again. It can't depend on them acting a certain way. Like our happiness has to depend on us. It has to depend on us controlling how we think about things. It has to depend on us building that relationship with being, okay with the unknown without us trying to figure everything out all of the time, with us just being okay in the present moment. Like me just being here with you making this video right now, like me just being in this moment. Like, I'm looking outside, it's raining outside right now. I can see my flowers behind me, all these things in this present moment, instead of worrying about what I'm going to say 5 minutes from now, worrying about the next time I'm going to hear from my daughter, worrying about something in my life and how's it going to turn out 5 years from now. Like, we want to know the answers to things so that we can hopefully avoid pain, but then we actually cause ourselves more pain in the process. So there's a potential that this unknown factor could not turn out how we want it to. And so we want to know what's going to happen just in case it's going to turn out how we don't want it to, so that we can avoid the possibility of pain down the road. But in doing that, we ensure pain right now, and we ensure pain until we get the answer about whatever the unknown thing is. So, just let that sink in for a minute. Like, in order to avoid the possibility of pain, we make sure that we create pain in our current moment and until we have the answer to whatever that unknown is in our life. And that's just how the way we think about things can cause us so much more suffering, and why acceptance When you're dealing with your child's addiction or any other, global pandemic or anything like that, just being accepting of a certain level of not knowing and knowing that you don't have to figure it out, knowing that you might just have to keep taking the next right step until you finally do have the answer. But you might not even have all of the skills that you need to cope with whatever it is that's going to happen until you get to that point. So, my whole point in this is just being okay with not knowing. If you aren't okay with not knowing, then you're just resisting reality. The reality is you don't know. You're not going to know. You're probably not going to be able to figure it out. Because if you're anything like me, whatever you project into the future that's going to happen is some crazy thing that's never going to happen. Like one of the biggest things for me to get over and, really have to rein in was every time I didn't hear from my daughter, I just immediately pictured her dead. It's horrible, right? Because the truth of that is your brain doesn't even know the difference. Like you're just putting all of these chemicals in your body from all of that pain of that situation as if that really happened. And I had to learn to be okay with a certain level of the unknown. If I don't hear from her, I just have to be okay with the unknown. And if I'm in acceptance of there being a certain level of the unknown, then I'm at peace, But if I'm not, if I'm resisting it, then I'm suffering. Then I'm trying to figure it out. Then I'm trying to fix it. Then I'm trying to stay one step ahead all the time, which is exhausting. I've talked to mothers who are planning their kid's funeral because they're so afraid that their kid is going to die of an overdose. Now, it is a possibility that could happen, right? But think how much pain that mother is experiencing every single moment of every day, trying to avoid the possibility of future pain. And that's something that's an extreme example, but it's just a way that we steal our joy all day, every day. Our need to know so that we can be okay really is what makes us not okay, right? Like if we can just accept that we don't know, and there's some things that we don't know, that's really what makes us okay. And, this is just one way that we continuously steal any happiness or, just these peaceful moments we could have when we're just in acceptance. And acceptance doesn't even mean that you're okay with it. It just means that this is the situation, this is reality, and I accept that this is what's happening, and I'm going to work with it instead of against it. And I'm going to accept that there is just a certain level of unknown in the world, and that I'm going to practice being okay with that. I'm going to practice not needing to know. I'm going to practice not having to figure it out all the time. When I catch my brain trying to figure it out, coming back into the moment and being like, okay, asking myself some questions. Can I figure this out? Is it important that I figure this out? Am I causing myself more suffering by trying to figure this out? Or is this something that I can just accept that I don't know right now? And just, going through that process of asking yourself those questions gets your brain out of the thought loop. That's what questions do. Our brain gets on this negative thought loop, and questions just stop that process dead in its tracks. Then you engage your prefrontal cortex, and then you're back in control of what's happening with your brain. You're not on autopilot anymore. And so then you can consciously decide how you're going to move forward instead of moving forward on this autopilot program where you've got to figure it out. You've got to know, you've got to create that security. If you don't have that security, you're not going to be happy, which this vicious cycle, you're unhappy because you don't know. So I just wanted to point out how we really can create a sense of peace with just being okay with the unknown. And so, I just challenge you to practice that. The next time you find yourself in one of those thought loops, just stop and ask yourself some of those questions. Just stop and think about the current moment, like what's happening around me. What am I feeling in my body right now? What you see, what do you hear? Like really being present in the present moment, and then going to those questions, and then exercising your right to choose. Like, am I going to choose to allow this thought loop to go on, or am I just going to allow myself to be okay with the unknown? So this was really short. That's all I have for this week. I hope that you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.